Knocking on Adam's dressing room door, Penn held his breath, still undecided if he hoped Adam would be there or not. It was necessary that they talked, but he didn't want to turn this conversation into a big fat, pour your deepest secrets out drama either. The plan was to go in, explain why he was wearing the dress, and hopefully put Adam's big macho ego at rest. Penn was well aware of the misogyny going on in the LGBT community, even in open-minded cities like London. He might be gay, but Adam sure as hell didn't seem comfortable with any feminine displays of too much gayness. Penn was fine with that. Each to their own, he supposed. That didn't mean he'd stop wearing his silk nightie or lace thongs. It just meant that if he and Adam started sleeping together as he hoped, he'd be careful not to put his private garment preference in Adam's face too much. The door swung open, startling Penn out of his thoughts. Adam stood on the other side of it, looking a bit worse for wear. He had shadows under his eyes, as if he hadn't slept much, and his sensual mouth was set in a pale frown. "Can we talk?" Penn asked, some of his determination leaking out of him. Meeting Adam's dark, unreadable eyes, he was starting to think that this would be tougher to do than he'd thought. Penn wasn't someone who paraded his personal tastes in public, but he also wasn't going to deny who he was and shy away from what he liked, in and out of bed. If Adam continued to stare at him like that, frowning and unpleasantly surprised, the conversation would take a much more hostile tone than he'd hoped. Adam gestured for him to come in and close the door behind him. Without waiting for an invitation to start talking, Penn said, "Look, I'm not going to apologize for what you saw last night." He turned to fully face Adam in the middle of the small room, neither of them sitting down on the plush sofa. "I was making the dress for a client, like I said, and I can get a much better feel of the cut and the fabric if I put it on. I always do it, with each and every garment I make." Penn paused, looking for something he could read in Adam's eyes, but they remained passive and dark. "Okay, then. But I also like wearing dresses for my own pleasure sometimes." There, he'd said it. He'd expected shock to appear on Adam's face, and as if on cue, it did. Anger rose in Penn's chest, so unexpectedly powerful that he wanted to take the few short steps separating them and bang his fists on Adam's broad chest until what exactly? What did he want from Adam? Still, Adam said nothing. "I'm not going to make any excuses or apologies for that, or for liking the feel of silk on my skin," Penn continued, taking a step towards Adam, trying to rein in his anger until he was out of the room. "I love sleeping in my short night dress, feel it riding up in the middle of the night and sliding back down when I get out of bed. I love feeling the lace of my thong moving up and down my ass cheeks as I walk." Penn stopped talking, fearing he'd pushed Adam too far, when something animalistic flared in Adam's eyes, and he lunged for him, grabbing Penn and imprisoning him in the tight circle of his arms. Penn's breath whooshed out of him, both from surprise and being manhandled so fiercely. "You think I left because I didn't like it?" Adam whispered in his ear, clutching at him even more tightly. "I left because all I wanted to do was barge in your flat, lock the door behind me, and fuck you hard in that dress all night long." Penn couldn't help shivering when he heard those words. His whole body started trembling, from arousal, astonishment, and relief. "Why didn't you?" he managed to say, his voice sounding weak and quiet. Adam's arms loosened around him, but didn't let go completely. He drew back to look into Penn's eyes, the hesitation in them telling Penn everything he needed to know. It was evident that Adam was afraid he'd conjure images of Charlie as he fucked Penn, and the thought made him uncomfortable. He'd said last night that they could move past this, but now Penn was starting to feel that Adam wasn't so sure anymore. Fuck that. "Everyone compares their new lover to their old one, at least at first. It's inevitable," Penn said, determination to get Adam into his bed, into his life, overtaking him and making him bolder than he'd ever thought he could be. "In our case is my brother, and I understand that could be weird, for both of us." Rising on his toes, Penn placed a gentle kiss under Adam's jaw and freed his arms from his embrace, looping them behind Adam's neck. "I get it why you think it'll be weird if you fuck me. Penn whispered into Adam's ear, watching as Adam shivered slightly. "But think about it this way," he continued, his lower lip brushing Adam's earlobe. Adam shuddered more visibly this time, clenching his hands into fists behind Penn's back. "You can tell me all your fantasies, and I promise you, I'll do them." Adam groaned, deep and low, and, as if on instinct, ground his hips against Penn, his hard cock nudging at Penn's own erection through their clothes. "I'll be home tonight, ready for you, if you change your mind," Penn said, extracting himself from Adam's arms and meeting his eyes head-on. The arousal in them was evident, even if Penn hadn't glanced at Adam's crotch and seen the bulge in his jeans. Smirking and giving Adam's neck one last brush of his lips, Penn sauntered away, unable to believe he'd gathered the courage to do what he'd just done.